What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, undefeated, newly crowned, 3-belt, unified, welterweight world champion, superstar boxer who is widely considered by many to be top 2 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, and Errol "The Truth" Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. is now 28 wins, no losses, no draws, 22 big wins by way of knockout. He is 32 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach. With that said, Errol Spence, he responds back to his biggest rival's recent post, and that being undefeated, 3-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the reigning WBO, World Boxing Organization welterweight world champion, has knocked out 10 of his last 11 opponents. Welterweight superstar boxer who is widely considered by many to be the #1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, in Terence "Bud" Crawford. Terence Crawford is 38 wins, no losses, no draw, 29 big wins by way of knockout. He is 34 years of age, 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. With that said, Terence Crawford, he recently put up a post, and in his post he put up, he stated that once he beats Errol Spence Jr., because this fight would be for undisputed. This makes for the biggest fight in the sport of boxing, okay? So he stated, once he beats Errol Spence Jr. for undisputed and the biggest fight in the sport of boxing, he's going to go up to junior middleweight, 154. He wants to challenge the winner of tonight's fight, who is the highly favorite fighter, is who he's targeting, and that's 2-time junior middleweight world champion, unified junior middleweight world champion, superstar boxer JERMELL Lions Only CHARLO. JERMELL CHARLO is 34 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, 18 wins by way of knockout. He is 31 years of age, 6 feet tall, with a 73-inch arm reach. With that said, JERMELL CHARLO is going into a highly anticipated undisputed rematch with WBO junior middleweight world champion, Argentinian superstar boxer Brian Castano. That's scheduled to take place tonight in Los Angeles, California. And so with that said, he's stating that he wants to fight Errol Spence's cheerleader. We know JERMELL CHARLO and Errol Spence are very close friends. They are stablemates. They share the same trainer, well-renowned trainer. This year will be trainer of the year for the 2nd time in his career, in Derrick James. So Terence Crawford, he stated, once I beat Errol Spence, I'll be undisputed. Once I go up and beat his cheerleader, JERMELL CHARLO, I'll be undisputed in that weight class. I'll be undisputed in 3 separate weight classes, okay? And he says that he put GOAT hashtag some very, very big shoes to fill, okay? Nearly impossible. This is what Terence Crawford had to say, okay? So he said it's going to be nearly impossible to fill those shoes, okay? Now, with that said, Errol Spence, he responds. Now, I told you guys, he said that, Terence Crawford said, GOAT status, right? So with that said, Errol Spence, he responds on social media today. And this is what Errol Spence had to say regarding Terence Crawford saying that, those shoes would be very big to fill as GOAT status, okay? That's what Terence Crawford had to say. Now, I love the promotion for this fight. It's just getting bigger as the days go on, okay? It's enormous, and it's just getting bigger with the promotion. The fact that they're responding and publicly talking to one another, that's huge, okay? And so it's clear that they're listening to one another. It's competitive, and they want to face one another, right? And they want to prove who's the best. So Errol Spence, he puts this up. He says, quote, put a goat in the water with a big fish and see what happens. Hashtag the biggest, right? Now, if you don't know, Errol Spence refers to himself as the big fish, okay? Strap season, and the truth, right? So that's what he refers to himself as, the big fish, okay? And so he stated, put a goat in the ocean with a big fish and see what happens, in response to Terence Crawford's saying that, you know, he's going to be GOAT. It's going to be GOAT status, okay? If he becomes undisputed, he's undisputed at junior welterweight 140, undisputed at 147 if he beat Errol Spence, and then if he beat JERMELL CHARLO 154, undisputed at 154. That would be GOAT status, okay? That's some very big shoes to fill. You undisputed in 3 separate weight classes. That speaks volumes, especially in today's time when the belts are all scattered all over the place. Yesteryear, when it was only the WBC and the WBA belts, or it was only at one point in time, then it got to the WBC, WBA, and the IBF. It was only 3 belts when Zab Judah was the last undisputed welterweight champion. Well, now you got to collect 4 belts to become undisputed, okay? And the belts are scattered, and fighters are, one fighter's with this promotional company, one fighter's with Top Rank and legendary promoter Bob Arum. Another fighter is with a Matchroom CEO and promoter Eddie Hearn, and another fighter is with the PBC, Premier Boxing Champion, founder and advisor Al Heyman. Then you have other fighter, you know, it's just everybody scattered all over the place, okay? And so, you know, it just shows that your eagerness to be the best, you would have to, you know, conform to the demands of the other side, okay? Hence, undefeated WBC lightweight world champion, superstar boxer, Devin the Dream Haney. Devin Haney, he had to go all the way, he has to go all the way to Australia to fight undefeated, newly crowned, unified lightweight world champion, Australian star boxer, George Kambosos Jr., okay? He had to come out his comfort zone, sign with ESPN and Bob Arum to secure this fight, right? Because he's his own commodity. He's with DHP, Devin Haney Promotion, with father, trainer, manager, and CEO Bill Haney. Okay, so they pretty much move on their own, to their own merit, and they do co-promotions with Matchroom and DAZN and Eddie Hearn, right? But now he had to fully sign with Bob Arum and Top Rank to secure undisputed fight with George Kambosos Jr. That's scheduled to take place June 4th in Australia, June 5th in the States. June 4th in the States, June 5th in Australia, right? And so it just shows the lengths that you have to go to be able to secure these fights, right? And to become undisputed. So with that said, saying is to say, that would be very, very impressive on the part of Terence Crawford if he's able to do so, okay? Now, more importantly, they told you that I made up a story when I said that, you know, 2-fight deal on the table for Terence Crawford. They said, his team said that I was making up a story. Well, how could he possibly fight Errol Spence, who's with the PBC, and then fight JERMELL CHARLO, who's with the PBC, if he don't have a 2-fight deal on the table? That would be impossible for him to do that, right? What is he going to do, a 1-in-1, a 1-off, and a 1-off? No, it would have to be a 2-fight deal. History has shown you, just like the PBC has wanted to do with Canelo Alvarez, multi-fights. He signed the fight. He was signed to fight JERMELL CHARLO, and then on back end, Errol Spence or David Benavidez, right? 2-fight deal. So with that said, you know, I love the promotion. I love the fact that Errol Spence is letting it be known that this is the fight he wants, okay? Because for far too long, people was claiming that Errol Spence is avoiding Terence Crawford. Okay, Errol Spence is avoiding this fight. He's you know, he don't want to take the fight. He know he's going to lose to Terence Crawford. He's pricing himself out. Well, he told you the plan from the beginning, that he wanted to collect all the belts, and then he was coming to get Terence Crawford belt at the end of the day, right? It was easier to pick up the belts on his side of the street. Not easier fights, easier to do business. Let me reiterate that. He never said it was an easier fight, an easier path. He said it was easier to do business. Let me pick up all these belts, because the plan was to become undisputed to begin with. So let me collect all these belts on my side, which is easier. Then I'll cross the street, and we can and then I could assist in taking your belt, right? That just makes sense. Okay. So with that said, Terence Crawford, I'm sure, will respond back, you know, at some point in time, you know, and this is great promotion, right? The fact that Terence Crawford is saying, I'm going to beat Errol Spence, and then I'm going to beat JERMELL CHARLO, his cheerleader, and be undisputed in 3 separate weight classes. That's huge. It's huge for the sport of boxing. It's huge for the fans, and it's huge for their legacy. The last time we had a fight of this magnitude, again, I can't say this enough, that was competitive in the ring, was September 16th, 1981, when we had Sugar Ray Leonard, Hall of Fame iconic superstar boxer, Sugar Ray Leonard, and another Hall of Fame undefeated world champion, iconic superstar boxer, and Thomas the Hitman Hearns, faced off for undisputed. At that time, it was just the WBC and the WBA titles. Now, I know we had the Floyd Mayweather-Manny Pacquiao fight that exceeded all revenue, broke every revenue barrier there was, every pay-per-view barrier there was, the most anticipated fight in the history of the sport of boxing. But in the ring, it didn't live up to the billing competitive-wise. They were both in their late 30s. It was 5 years, you know, a 5-year saga from the day it was first being mentioned as a possibility. Okay, it just dragged on, you know, and it took so long that by the time it did happen, they were seen to be back past their primes. But just the fact that you want to see Floyd Mayweather standing in one corner and Manny Pacquiao standing in the other corner, just the intrigue of that got their attention, and that's why I broke all the records. But the fight itself didn't live up to the billing. This fight here, both guys are in their absolute prime. Both guys are healthy. Both guys are undefeated, and both guys are champions. Manny Pacquiao had been knocked out 3 times. Manny Pacquiao had been badly outboxed a few times. Okay, so it was completely different. Terence Crawford has never lost. Errol Spence has never lost. They're both early 30s, so they're in their prime. So let's see how this all unfolds and plays out. But it needs to happen soon, because you got to look from this standpoint. Floyd Mayweather was 37. Manny Pacquiao, I believe, was 34, right? By the time this fight happened. Now you got to look at it from this standpoint, right? Terence Crawford will be 35 by the time this fight happens. He'd be 35 in September. It ain't going to happen June, July, August. So it ain't going, by the time he fights Errol Spence, he's going to be 35 years of age. Ironically, he's going to be 3 years older than Errol Spence, like Floyd Mayweather was 3 years older than Manny Pacquiao. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all in one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.